Michelle had been worried about her sister Yvonne for weeks. Ever since Yvonne left with her boyfriend on a trip to Panama, something about their communication felt off. Yvonne, once so open, now only sent the occasional email. No more travel updates. Then, suddenly, her boyfriend left her behind alone in Central America. Michelle couldn't shake the sense that something was wrong. So, once again, she tried to reach out. She decided to write an email. I just want to make sure you haven't been kidnapped and that someone isn't pretending to be you. You know, I've become a little paranoid, maybe. I just watched too many crime shows. What Michelle didn't know was that she wasn't being paranoid. She was about to live through her own true crime story. Welcome to the True Crime Channel for Yvonne Baldelli. September 2011 was the beginning of an exciting new chapter. She and her boyfriend Brian were heading to Central America. Their plan was to see the world and live in Panama for a while. After 2 years together, this seemed like the perfect time to leave their ordinary lives in California behind. Brian had left his job in the military. Yvonne had recently lost her high-paying management position at Procter & Gamble. It felt like the universe was pushing them toward a dream, to break free and live adventurously. Their journey began in September 2011. The couple arrived on Carneiro Island and rented a small beach house. Brian started introducing himself in bars and cafes, looking to perform as a guitarist and singer. Yvonne began sewing and selling bikinis to tourists. She emailed her family regularly. Almost daily, she updated Michelle about their new life, saying how happy she was and how Panama felt like paradise. Every day was spent together by the sea, enjoying life. But then, in late November 2011, silence. For 2 weeks, Yvonne didn't respond to any messages. Her family tried calling, emailing, nothing. They reassured themselves she was just busy. Then, on December 14th, Michelle received a chilling text from Brian. He had returned to the U.S. Michelle was shocked and read the message over and over, trying to make sense of it. She bombarded Brian with questions, but he couldn't say where Yvonne was. According to him, they had broken up during the trip. Yvonne had discovered that Brian had a child with another woman, something he had kept secret. If that was true, Michelle wondered, why hadn't Yvonne contacted them? Why hadn't she come home? And why were they hearing about the breakup from Brian only now? Michelle pushed Brian hard. She gave him an ultimatum: report Yvonne as missing to the police. But Brian refused. Then, finally, Michelle received an email. It was supposedly from Yvonne. Hey sis, just wanted to say Brian and I broke up. I should've trusted my gut. He's a lying jerk. Now I'm traveling alone to Costa Rica with a guy I met when we first arrived. The family was relieved. At least they'd heard from her. But something about the email didn't sit right. Yvonne wasn't the type to go off with a stranger. Days passed. Then weeks. Christmas came and went. Still no word from Yvonne. Then, just before New Year's, Michelle received another message. Hi, I miss you all. Everything's okay, but I'm getting homesick. I'm planning to come back in the second week of January. I miss you so much. Michelle, I want to be with you. Tried calling last week, but couldn't reach you. I'm almost out of savings. But I'm not in any big financial trouble yet. Write back and tell me how everyone is. I want to keep adventuring for as long as I can. The family finally relaxed. Yvonne would soon be back, and they'd finally learn what had really happened. With Brian, that same day Michelle got the email. Brian showed up at her house to pick up his car. Without much thought, Michelle handed over the keys. After all, Yvonne had just written. Maybe her instincts about Brian were wrong. On January 6, 2012, Michelle emailed Yvonne again, but there was no reply. Yvonne had promised to come home the next week, but never did. Michelle was worried again, so she wrote, I just want to be sure you haven't been kidnapped. You know, I've become a little paranoid. Maybe I've watched too many crime shows. Days passed, weeks, Yvonne never came back. With Brian refusing to go to the police, Michelle called her cousin, a tech expert. He analyzed the source code of Yvonne's emails and found something terrifying. The early emails really had come from Panama, but the recent ones? Not from Costa Rica, not even Central America. They were sent from Southern California, from the area where Brian lived. Michelle's paranoia now had proof. Someone was pretending to be Yvonne, and all signs pointed to Brian. She took everything to the police. The FBI launched an investigation. They now believe that Yvonne and her dog were victims of foul play. Airport records confirmed it. No one named Yvonne Baldelli had ever traveled to Costa Rica. She never left Panama. Yvonne's devastated family traveled to Panama. They plastered missing posters everywhere, asked neighbors for information, and held tearful press conferences. To their surprise, the local community was deeply moved. The media covered the search constantly. Locals joined in, helping search the rainforests and coastline. People who had seen Brian and Yvonne together shared troubling accounts. Brian was prone to sudden rages. He drank heavily and often screamed at Yvonne. Sometimes, neighbors heard the violence. He yelled, insulted, and even physically assaulted her. One night, a bar employee noticed Yvonne had a black eye. She tried to hide it, but it was clear. Brian had hit her. Neighbors confirmed the abuse. Screams were common. They saw Brian push her, hit her, while Yvonne's family gave up everything to search for her. Brian didn't lift a finger. He didn't help, didn't cooperate, didn't care. Instead, Brian was planning a wedding to another woman. Her name was Kristen, the mother of his child. He was under FBI surveillance, but they couldn't arrest him. Not yet. There was no physical evidence. Turns out, Brian had lived a double life for years. He had lied to both women. Kristen met Brian while he worked in the military at the White House during the Bush administration. She had no idea he had a girlfriend. Brian told her he was traveling to Panama with former colleagues. Strangely, Kristen wasn't surprised when the FBI confronted her. She even defended Brian, saying she couldn't imagine him hurting Yvonne. After Brian's wedding, the FBI questioned him again. Yvonne's family was falling apart, consumed by the search. Meanwhile, Brian was playing golf and living comfortably near San Diego. When agents visited his home, he was playing with his daughter. He repeated the same story. Yvonne had left him for another man and disappeared. He claimed she left a note saying she was going to Costa Rica. But the FBI confronted him with the IP address evidence. The emails came from Southern California. Then they saw it, a laptop, the same brand Yvonne had used. The agents seized it and confirmed it was Yvonne's. Brian had used it to send fake emails in her name. But there was more. Yvonne had saved selfie photos of her injuries. One photo showed the same black eye seen by bar staff. The laptop also contained disturbing searches: how to clean bloodstains, how to remove blood from a mattress. The FBI knew Yvonne hadn't made those searches. Brian had. They found ATM footage of him withdrawing money from her account. The signs pointed clearly to murder. Yvonne had learned about Brian's secret life, and she wanted out, but Brian remained free until June 26, 2013, when the possible murder weapon was found. The FBI learned that Brian had sold a machete on Facebook, describing it as only used once. They located the buyer and recovered the weapon, but there was no DNA on it. Still, weeks later came the devastating truth. A local man found a bag of human bones in the jungle. The DNA confirmed it was Yvonne. The bones showed she had been stabbed and then dismembered with a machete. Her dog was never found, but investigators believed it was killed too. A legal battle broke out between Panama and the US over where Brian should be tried. Meanwhile, Michelle grew gravely ill. She had spent her final years fighting for justice for her sister. Even in her last days, Michelle didn't give up. She recorded testimony for court and collapsed shortly after. She passed away just days later in 2016. Brian's murder trial finally began in California. He claimed innocence, but the prosecution had a secret weapon. Investigators realized the machete's handle came off. They removed it and found blood. DNA confirmed it was Yvonne's. The evidence was overwhelming. After 5 years of silence and lies, Brian finally confessed. He admitted to murdering Yvonne. He was sentenced to 26 years in prison. Kristen, shockingly, continues to support him to this day. For Yvonne's family, the verdict marked the end of 5 years of anguish. They were finally able to bury her. A sea burial was held, just as Yvonne had wanted, and now in death. The two sisters, Michelle and Yvonne, were finally reunited.
Imagine sending an email to someone you love, and it starts with this really chilling feeling. Michelle wrote, "I just want to make sure you haven't been kidnapped and that someone isn't pretending to be you."
Wow.
Yeah. And she adds, "You know, I've become a little paranoid. Maybe I've just watched too many crime shows."
Yeah.
The terrible irony is she didn't know how right she was. Her paranoia was spot on. She was kind of about to step into her own true crime nightmare.
It's that intuition, sometimes dismissed, that ends up being so critical.
Exactly. So this is our deep dive into what happened to Yvonne Baldelli and her boyfriend, Brian. Back in September 2011, they looked like they were starting this amazing adventure. Left California, headed for Panama. The dream was, travel, adventure. Brian was going to play music. Yvonne planned to sell bikinis. Sounds like paradise.
The classic escape story, living the dream.
Totally. They were communicating daily. Everything seemed fine. And then just silence. Late November 2011, she just drops off the map.
And that sudden break-in pattern, especially after consistent contact, that's always the first major alarm bell in these kinds of situations.
Right. So today our mission is really to piece together the disturbing chain of events after Yvonne vanished. We're drawing on everything available: personal emails, the FBI files, Panamanian police reports, witness statements, court records.
A really comprehensive set of sources.
Yeah. We want to uncover how this dream trip just imploded into a nightmare, and also track the relentless fight for justice that followed. Okay, let's unpack this. A journey starting with such high hopes and ending up as this terrifying mystery for her family.
And what's fascinating, as you said, is how those early anxieties, that feeling Michelle called paranoia, it wasn't paranoia at all. It was intuition, wasn't it? And it really guided that initial desperate search for answers.
Absolutely. So for 2 weeks after the communication stopped, nothing. Her family's calling, emailing, trying everything.
Just met with silence.
Complete silence. They tried to tell themselves, oh, she's just busy. Maybe reception is bad. The usual reassurances.
You cling to hope, don't you?
You do. But then, December 14th, Michelle gets a text message that changes everything. It's Brian. He's back in the U.S. alone.
Alone. That immediately shifts the dynamic, doesn't it? Why is he back without her?
That's exactly what the family thought. His story was that they'd broken up. Apparently, Yvonne found out he had a child with another woman back in the States.
Okay. I mean, a plausible reason for a breakup, perhaps?
Maybe. But it didn't explain Yvonne's silence at all. Why hadn't she called? Why hadn't she said anything?
Exactly. His story puts all the focus on his narrative, with zero confirmation from Yvonne herself. In a missing persons context, that's deeply suspicious.
And Michelle's gut instinct just went into overdrive. If they broke up, why didn't Yvonne contact them? Why didn't she come home too? Why are they only hearing this from Brian weeks later?
All the right questions.
She pushed him hard, even gave him an ultimatum.
You need to report Yvonne missing to the police, and Brian,
Let me guess.
flat out refused. Wow. That refusal, combined with Yvonne's continued silence, I mean, that must have solidified the family's worst fears right there.
It did. But then things got even stranger. An email arrives, supposedly from Yvonne.
Oh,
It says, "Hey sis, just wanted to say Brian and I broke up. I should have trusted my gut. He's a lying jerk. Now I'm traveling alone to Costa Rica with a guy I met when we first arrived."
okay. So for a moment, maybe a flicker of relief. Or did it feel off?
There was relief. For a moment they thought, okay, at least we've heard from her. She's angry, she's moving on, but she's okay. But it just didn't feel right. It wasn't like Yvonne to just take off with some random guy without telling anyone properly.
Doesn't fit the profile.
Not at all. Days go by, then weeks, Christmas passes, still nothing.
Yeah.
Then, just before New Year's, another email, again, supposedly from Yvonne.
What did this one say?
"Hi, I miss you all. Everything's okay, but I'm getting homesick. I'm planning to come back in the second week of January."
Ah, okay. That sounds more promising. A specific time frame.
Exactly. It offered this little thread of hope. The family finally relaxed a bit, thinking, okay, she's coming home soon.
And crucially, what else happened around that time?
You know, it's chilling. The very same day Michelle got that email promising Yvonne's return, Brian shows up at her house. He needs to pick up his car.
Oh, wow. The timing.
Incredible, right. And Michelle, likely feeling reassured by the email, just hands over the keys. Didn't think much of it at the time.
It just shows how desperately you want to believe the good news, even if something feels slightly off. That narrative, however flimsy, can override your gut for a moment.
It really can. So January 6, 2012 arrives. Michelle emails Yvonne again. No reply.
And the promised return date?
Came and went. Yvonne never showed up. Michelle's worry just skyrockets. And that's when she writes that email we started with, the one about being paranoid. "I just want to be sure you haven't been kidnapped."
The paranoia again.
Yeah.
Which, as we now know, was just sharp intuition. So what did she do next, with Brian still refusing to involve the police?
She called her cousin. He was a tech expert.
Smart move.
Very. She asked him to look at the emails just to see if anything seemed weird. He didn't just read them. He dug into the source code, the headers.
The digital forensics. That's where the real story often lies. It's much harder to fake those digital footprints.
And what he found was absolutely terrifying. He looked at the IP addresses embedded in those email headers.
To trace where they were sent from.
Exactly. The early emails, the happy ones from when Yvonne first arrived, they genuinely came from Panama. No question.
Okay, so those were legitimate.
Yes, but those later ones, the ones about the breakup, the trip to Costa Rica, coming home in January.
Where did they come from? Not Costa Rica, I'm guessing.
Not even close.
Yeah.
They weren't sent from Costa Rica, not even anywhere in Central America. They originated directly from Southern California.
Southern California.
From the exact area where Brian lived.
Oh my God. That's incontrovertible proof, isn't it? Someone was pretending to be Yvonne, and the sender was right there in California. All signs pointing squarely at Brian.
Precisely. This digital evidence just blew the case wide open. It shifted everything. Michelle took all this information straight to the police.
And the FBI got involved at this point.
Immediately, they launched a full investigation, operating under the grim assumption that Yvonne and her dog, Duke, who was also missing, were likely victims of foul play.
The missing dog is another disturbing detail. Often points to trying to eliminate witnesses or connections.
Yeah. And the FBI quickly checked airport records. Surprise, surprise.
No record of Yvonne Baldelli traveling to Costa Rica.
None whatsoever. She never left Panama. Her family, completely devastated, flew down there themselves.
They had to go search.
They did. They put up missing posters everywhere, went door to door asking questions, held these heart-wrenching press conferences. The local community in Bocas del Toro was incredibly supportive.
That happens sometimes. The community really rallies.
They did. Media coverage was constant. Locals joined the search parties, combing the rainforest, the coastline, anywhere she might be.
And during this time, did more information surface about Brian and Yvonne's relationship before she disappeared? From witnesses?
Yes, and it painted a really disturbing picture. People who knew them or saw them around started talking. It wasn't paradise.
What did they say?
They described Brian as having this pattern of escalating control and abuse, prone to sudden, really violent rages, heavy drinking, screaming at Yvonne.
So a history of volatility.
Definitely. Neighbors reported hearing horrible fights, yelling, insults, things being thrown, even physical assaults. One specific account came from a bar employee.
What did they see?
They noticed Yvonne had a black eye one night. She tried to cover it up, play it down, but it was obvious Brian had hit her.
That establishes a critical context, doesn't it? A history of violence. It makes the disappearance even more ominous.
Absolutely. And while Yvonne's family is pouring their hearts, souls, and savings into finding her in Panama, what's Brian doing?
Let me guess. Not helping.
Not lifting a finger. No help, no cooperation, apparently no concern at all. Instead, he was back in California planning a wedding.
A wedding?
To who?
To another woman named Kristen, the mother of the child Yvonne had supposedly just found out about.
Wow. So he just moves on like nothing happened, while under suspicion.
He was under FBI surveillance, yeah, but they didn't have enough to arrest him yet. No body, no definitive physical evidence linking him directly to her disappearance at that point. It just shows this incredible, calculated indifference.
It suggests he'd been living this double life for a long time, doesn't it? Lying to both women. Did Kristen know about Yvonne?
Apparently not. Kristen had met Brian years earlier when he was in the military, stationed at the White House, believe it or not. He told her he was going to Panama on a trip with some old colleagues. Complete lies.
And Kristen's reaction when the FBI eventually talked to her.
That's another baffling part. According to the report, she wasn't particularly surprised when the FBI showed up, but she defended Brian, said she couldn't imagine him hurting Yvonne.
It speaks volumes about the kind of manipulation he must have been capable of, holding that kind of power over people. It really does. So after Brian gets married, the FBI questions him again. Yvonne's family is just falling apart, consumed by this desperate search. Meanwhile, Brian's living comfortably near San Diego playing golf.
The contrast is just stark.
Isn't it? Agents go to his house. He's there playing with his young daughter, and he sticks to the same story. Yvonne found out about Kristen. She got angry, left him for another guy, claimed she left a note saying she was going to Costa Rica.
But this time, the FBI had the email evidence, right? The IP address.
They did. They confronted him directly. Brian, these emails weren't sent from Costa Rica. They were sent from Southern California. From your area.
How did he react to that?
We don't have his exact reaction, but right there in his home, the agents spotted something crucial.
What was it?
A laptop. The same brand Yvonne was known to use.
They seized it.
Immediately. And forensic analysis confirmed it.
Yeah.
It was Yvonne's laptop. That definitively linked Brian to sending those fake emails pretending to be her.
The digital trail closing in. What else did they find on the laptop?
It got worse. Yvonne had saved selfie photos on it. Photos documenting injuries.
Injuries. Like the black eye.
Exactly. Including a photo showing the very same black eye the bar employee had described seeing. Proof of the abuse.
Okay, so evidence of prior violence captured by Yvonne herself.
Yes. And the laptop also contained internet search history. Really disturbing search queries.
Like what?
Things like how to clean blood stains and how to remove blood from a mattress.
Oh my God, chilling. And the FBI concluded these weren't Yvonne's searches?
Definitely not. They attributed them to Brian, along with ATM footage showing him withdrawing money from Yvonne's bank account after she disappeared. It painted a very clear picture.
A picture of what, calculated deception? Covering tracks, and a potential motive emerging too.
Yeah.
If Yvonne found out about his double life and wanted out.
Exactly. The theory became that she confronted him, maybe threatened to expose him, and he silenced her.
Yet, even with all this mounting evidence, the emails, the laptop, the searches, the ATM withdrawals, the history of abuse, he was still free.
Still free. For a while longer. But then, June 26, 2013, a potential murder weapon surfaces.
Oh.
The FBI found out Brian had sold a machete online through Facebook Marketplace or something similar.
Okay.
And the description he used in the ad was just eerie. He described it as only used once.
Only used once. Wow. They tracked it down.
They found the buyer, recovered the machete. Initially, though, forensic tests didn't find any DNA on the blade itself.
So, a suspicious item, but not a direct link yet.
Not immediately. But just having the machete, knowing Brian possessed it and then sold it with that weird description, it was another piece of the puzzle. Then, a few weeks later, the awful truth finally came out.
The discovery.
Yeah. A local worker clearing some jungle area near the island where they lived found a backpack. Inside, human remains.
Oh no.
DNA tests confirmed it. It was Yvonne.
Devastating. What did the remains show?
They showed she had been brutally attacked, stabbed multiple times, and then dismembered. Dismembered with a tool consistent with a machete.
Consistent with the machete Brian sold. And the dog, Duke. Ever found?
Never found. Investigators believe Brian likely killed the dog too. Maybe because it witnessed something, or just to erase every last trace of Yvonne's life there.
Just complete eradication. Horrifying.
This discovery, obviously, changed everything legally, but it also sparked this sort of jurisdiction battle between Panama and the U.S. over where Brian should face trial.
Right, where the crime occurred versus where the suspect was.
Exactly. And during this legal wrangling, something else tragic was happening. Michelle, Yvonne's sister, the one who fought so hard from the very beginning,
What happened to her?
she had been battling cancer. Her health took a sharp decline. She'd poured every last bit of her energy into finding justice for Yvonne.
Unbelievable dedication.
It really was. Even in her final days, knowing she was gravely ill, Michelle did one last thing for her sister. She recorded her testimony for the court proceedings.
She recorded testimony, even while that sick.
Yes. She gave her statement, her account of everything, and shortly after finishing that recording, she collapsed. She passed away just days later.
Wow, that's profound commitment. Ensuring her voice would be heard, even if she couldn't be there, she really prioritized justice for Yvonne right until the very end.
She absolutely did. Her determination was just incredible. It really underscores the immense toll this took on the entire family.
So when did the trial finally happen?
Brian's murder trial eventually began in California in 2016. He still maintained his innocence, pleaded not guilty.
Despite all the evidence stacked against him.
Yes, but the prosecution had one more crucial piece of evidence related to the machete.
What was it? They found something new.
They did. Investigators took another look at the machete itself. They realized the handle could be removed. It wasn't one solid piece.
Okay.
So they carefully took the handle off. And hidden underneath, preserved inside the handle cavity, there was blood.
The blood, after all that time.
Yes. They tested it. DNA confirmation. It was Yvonne's blood. On the handle of the machete, Brian sold, saying it was only used once.
The final nail. Undeniable physical proof connecting him directly to the murder weapon and the victim.
Completely undeniable. The evidence was just overwhelming at that point. There was nowhere left for him to hide.
So did he finally confess?
He did. After 5 long years of lies, denials, and silence, Brian finally confessed. Admitted to murdering Yvonne in a jealous rage, dismembering her body, and hiding the remains.
And a sentence.
He was sentenced to 26 years in prison.
26 years. And Kristen, the woman he married, what's her status now?
Remarkably, reports indicate she continues to support him. Even after the conviction, she still stands by him.
That's quite something. It really highlights the complex, sometimes baffling psychology involved in these kinds of abusive and manipulative relationships.
It really does. For Yvonne's remaining family, though, the verdict finally brought an end to those 5 years of just unimaginable pain and uncertainty.
They could finally grieve properly, perhaps.
Yes, and they were able to give Yvonne the burial she had apparently always wanted. They held a service and scattered her ashes at sea.
A sea burial, fulfilling her wishes.
Fulfilling her wishes. And in a way, you could say that in death, the two sisters, Michelle and Yvonne, who fought so hard and loved each other so much, were finally reunited.
It's an incredibly moving, yet tragic end to the story. You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this story is so much more than just a horrific crime. It's profoundly about the power of a sister's love, isn't it? That unwavering determination Michelle showed, facing unimaginable obstacles, profound grief, her own failing health.
Absolutely. Her relentless pursuit of truth, even when she was literally dying. It really forces you to think about what never giving up truly means. What does Michelle's fight, her journey, teach you about the strength of those family bonds when confronted with something so utterly devastating?